This week on the Baseline Podcast, Josh and I discussed the NBA Draft. We discussed the top 10 picks. What were some of those picks that we thought were good, and some others that were head scratchers? Then we talk about college football recruiting. Ohio State's been hitting the jackpot, and some other teams, have they missed out on some big names? And then we finish up by discussing the NHL playoffs, specifically the Stanley Cup, and who do we predict winning this end of this series? All that and so much more coming up on the Baseline Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. That's Josh. I'm Ben. We are back. No Jared this week. He's been fired.
I was the one that proved to be worthy of Ben's co-host.
Sorry, Jared. We love you. You'll be back at some point, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. When there's soccer that, we obviously see Josh struggles with. That's besides the point. But Josh, I hope you've had a great week. I got a little sunburn, so we're just gonna be going through this with a little redness on the face. It's fine. It's fine. But I hope you guys are having a great week. If you guys could just leave a like, a share this podcast while you're at it, all that fun stuff that we do. You can follow us on Instagram at baseline.podcast, where Josh and I are sharing a lot of different things, as well as you'll be seeing some clips, especially of Josh's rant about, of course, Deshaun Watson, because what else would he not rant about? It's
might get another one soon because we got a hearing, Ben, for Deshaun on Tuesday. The NFL announced.
This is going to be fun. This will be our show for the next multiple weeks. But yeah, we have some cool things in store. We were actually just talking before we started recording some ideas that we have coming up here in the future, some guests, sort of thing like that. So stay tuned for what's coming. But Josh, the NBA draft happened, which is something we did not hype up, by the way, Josh. We didn't hype this at all.
Kind of snuck up on us.
I think we both
maybe more so me, just because the finals were going on and I didn't even watch that. I'm kind of distanced from NBA fandom right now, but yeah, it was just kind of
it was funny because we looked at each other. I think it was last week after we recorded. And we're like, oh, the NBA draft is this next week. We're both like, oh, we should probably talk about that.
Definitely did not give it the attention we gave the NFL draft.
Oh no, I feel like, especially when I looked at the Fifth and Goal podcast and they had their whole mock draft, and I was like, okay, well, we totally dropped the ball on that one.
Yeah, we did.
But anyways, we're going to talk about the draft. We're going to mention the top 10 picks. I'm sorry for all those other picks. It's just we didn't do enough research. Yeah, we're going to admit it. Okay, we kind of knew the top 10, and then we're just bad.
Plus, it seemed. There's just less players. There's less rounds, so it's just it's not as loaded as the NFL when you have 11 guys on a field, 22 in a starting lineup, and 7 rounds and 53 on a roster. In the NBA, it's it's 2 rounds, it's 5 guys on a court at a time, 15 max roster, 30 teams. It's just there's less guys, so as a result, there's less talent as well.
Yeah.
So less of the guys in this draft are going to pan out than the amount of guys that are going to pan out in the NFL draft.
Yeah, that's
just kind of how it works. Once you get out of the top 10, typically in NBA draft, then it's kind of okay, we got to find diamonds in the rough already.
That is true. And there are some diamonds that I will be mentioning that I think they've been found in the rough. But Josh, why don't you go ahead and open us up with kind of for the start of the draft here and kind of some things that I think we both were shocked by what happened at the top of the draft.
Yeah, typically I would say most NFL and NBA drafts, we know who the number 1 pick is going to be going into draft night, just because there's usually one clear top prospect. There's also hype around kids. There's leaked rumors. Sometimes a team will just come out and say this is our guy. But Thursday, we didn't know who was going to be number 1. It was kind of talked about between Jabari Smith and Chet Holmgren, and then maybe Paolo Banchero. And I think most of the mocks that I saw had Jabari going first, but surprised it's Paolo Banchero. I've seen the boy play a few times being a Tar Heel fan.
Got owned by a Ohio State player,
but
got owned by Ohio State. That's all I'm saying.
Still a shocker. Is it a shock to you at all?
I'm more shocked that the Magic seem to always pick a player that is maybe not what everyone thinks it should be picked. I feel like the Magic have a great young core. I think they have a lot of good young guys, but you have Chet Holmgren. I'll mention when we talk about Chet Holmgren, I'll mention my issues with Chet. Jabari Smith is just a beast. Like if you watch him play, he's an animal. And I thought, I think they went with Paulo because I think there's more like upside maybe to him and more of a range of what he can do. I saw him play against Ohio State, which Ohio State beat them, by the way, beat Duke. It's the one good thing from the year for Ohio State. And they own EJ Liddell basically made him look, really owned him, which I think Paulo just to me, I think we'll see what happens. I think he's going to be, obviously he's a top 3 pick, obviously, but it was interesting that they went this route and not Jabari or Chet Holmgren. But yeah, we'll see. It wasn't too much of a surprise, but I think it would just caught, everyone off guard. I mean, you listen to the announcement and everyone's just like, wait, what? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think especially in the NBA, maybe more so in the NFL too, upside kind of can weigh more than like talent or development already.
And
right?
I wish we could understand what the Cavaliers were thinking back when they drafted Anthony Bennett. But
oh yeah,
I don't know where the upside was that one, but
I wouldn't put Paulo like being number 1 on like that level of surprise. Like that draft, at least, I don't even think Anthony Bennett was being talked about being a top 10 pick.
Still haunts me.
Yes, Paulo number 1 right there, and then maybe not as big of a surprise. Chet Holmgren number 2. Ben, does Chet Holmgren look like he dresses up for Tyler Hero on Halloween, or like what's with, you see his getup, by the way?
Yeah. I'm just going to say this. I don't think Chet Holmgren is going to be a very good rookie NBA player. I'm probably the only one that's going to say that. I might be the only one.
As a number 2 pick.
The dude weighs 195 pounds. I'm sorry. I get it. He's a freak. He's long. He's athletic. There's only one long, freak, skinny, bony dude that I've seen play well, and that's Kevin Durant, and he's not anywhere near Kevin Durant level. Holmgren, the way he talks, like he's very he's very there's some ego to him, which I think there's to every star, right? But I just worry about his weight and how skinny he is. You know this as well as I do. In the NBA, you have to bang if you're in low. And like, unless he's going to be a Dirk Nowitzki that just kind of does a pick and pop all the time, which I don't think that's the way he plays. I don't know how he's going to compete against the MBs of the world, the Jokic's, these guys that are just going to beat him to a pulp. And especially in the Western Conference, when you got Gobert, you have a lot of these dudes that are just big. That's my only concern. And that's why, like, if I was the GM, I'm like, you better have a really good plan to either get him on a really good meal plan or have somebody there that's going to just like beat him up in practice, like get a Steven Adams back and just let him just hammer him for weeks on end. Because I don't know, like playing at Gonzaga, yeah, it's a great program, but do they play in the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, where you're going to get just beat up every single week? We've seen what happens when we see skinny big men come to the NBA. It takes them 2 to 3 years before they're really, truly built and ready to play.
Yeah. Like speaking of Gonzaga, like just as like a developmental program for the NBA, do we even know like many big time prospects that have come out of there? Like maybe outside of John Stockton, like you got to go way back.
Adam Morrison was a bust.
I'm saying Adam Morrison about like some of their bigger prospects, like Adam Morrison, maybe a few years ago when Nigel Williams-Goss was like their leader. Like I think he was like a late 2nd round pick. So like the level of competition they play, I think is a concern there. The weight, maybe not as big of a concern I have as I used to, but I mean, right now his weight, you will get a little bit bigger, I think, once you get to the NBA.
Yeah, of course.
There's some time to mature, but I mean, we've seen some guys like you remember Nerlens Noel coming up. He was very skinny, power forward, and Kristaps Porzingis also wasn't like the meatiest kid coming up. So I mean, we do see that stretch 4 role kind of be like available in the league. Like you don't have to necessarily be in the paint now as a 4. It would be preferred, I imagine.
But the question is though, I think the question is, will he want to play that though? If you look at him at Gonzaga, you had Timmy, right? So he was that stretch 4 guy, and Holmgren was playing that blocker inside, blocking shots. And that's where I'm going, like, is he wants to be the greatest. Like they asked him, who's the best player in the NBA? And he said, it's going to be me in 2 months. Like for me, it's like, okay, then go out and prove it. Gain 25 pounds of muscle, go out there, play down low. But I don't think the best player in the world is a pick and pop 3-point shooter. I'm sorry. Like that's not, like even Kevin Love, yeah, he's a pick and pop shooter, but he did his 14 years down low and beating the snot out of each other. And I just want to see Chet Holmgren do that. So yeah, that's not my rant. It's not really a rant. It was just more of a opinion.
A take.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah.
The Rockets number 3 pick. I think
Steal.
It's no brainer here at this point.
Steal.
Jabari Smith. Like you got to be feeling pretty good if you're the
you got to be real good,
right?
I mean, they went. I mean, they don't have they have a decent. I mean, you have some young guys, but to get Jabari Smith in there, I'm sure the GM's in there like, okay. I mean, this is the way our night's gonna go. So I think it's a great pick.
Right. I did not watch the draft, but I imagine if you ever had a pick where you didn't need to use all 10 minutes or whatever you get on the clock, this was probably the quickest pick ever made.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I think they would have taken Banchero if he was sitting there. I think they would have taken him easily. But hey, you'll take Jabari Smith, who many people thought is the best player in the draft.
Right, absolutely.
And I think, I think the next one, Josh, at 4 with the Kings is I think Keegan Murray is kind of not a shocker, but I think he was just quietly he's an amazing basketball player, but quietly I did not think he was going to go at 4, but he just quietly got chosen. It felt like, and I know that one's not a big surprise, I think, for either of us, but I know 5, you love this story and go to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jaden Ivey. I like him as a player too. Really fun to watch at Purdue. Big time point guard. Something that Detroit definitely could use. Detroit needs a lot of help. That's why they're kind of at pick 5. But
which sport? Sport?
But there's kind of some family ties to Detroit because his parents have both played for Detroit sports teams. So
mom played there, and his grandfather played it for the Lions. I mean, it's Detroit everywhere.
Yeah, I imagine Detroit is familiar. I don't know if that was a destination he was hoping to get to, but I'm sure it's not one that he's necessarily upset about. And I'm sure the family's all right, Detroit represent.
And he went to high school not too far from there, right? So
he did. He's an Indiana product. He actually was going to Mishawaka Marion High School, I believe it was, which is about an hour and a half from where I live. And then he ended up transferring to a prep school his last couple of years. But yeah, Indiana products, so not too far from Detroit, about I'd say 2.5 to 3 hours.
Man, Detroit's trying to find their savior. Will it happen? I don't know. So that's interesting. No, I agree with you. I think Jaden Ivey is a very underrated but good player. Does that make sense? He's he's very good, but I feel a lot of people just kind of oversee him because he's, I think these Big Ten players, sometimes it feels like no one talks about them. It's just they're really good, but they just kind of float in the breeze there. But the next one, Josh, the Pacers selected a man from Arizona. I can't say his name. It's Benedict Mathurin. Josh, I want you to can you, just for our audience reference here, can you please repeat what this man said? Just what this young man who's maybe 21, 22 years old, not even maybe that old. Just go ahead and repeat what he said.
Yeah. I can try to find the exact quote here so I make sure that I am not messing it up. But it was along the lines of LeBron James is going to have to prove himself to him once they face each other on the court.
I was talking about Chet Holmgren having ego. But this is at a stupid level. That's like me going to Einstein and being like, hey man, you're gonna have to prove yourself to me. In the lab, you're gonna have to prove myself. Oh, please, let's just hear this right now.
I don't think anybody is better than me. LeBron is going to have to show me he's better than me.
I'm sorry. There's confidence and then there's stupidity. You can't tell me you're going to look at LeBron's first off, he didn't say this to LeBron's face. I'm like, then you should go tell it to LeBron's face. But I'm sure LeBron is sitting there in his $1 million. He's just became a billionaire. LeBron James, by the way, sitting here going, really? So you're going to tell me that you think you're better than me? LeBron is 30. He's going to be 38 years old. And this man is going to be I cannot wait for this matchup. I cannot wait for a 38-year-old man just to own him like none other. That's all I'm going to say. You know what I'm saying, Josh? So there's like things you say like to like be confident about yourself, but you don't put the knife and the knife already sunk into your chest a little bit, waiting for him to push it the rest of the way. That's all I'm going to say. It really bothered me that like, there's one thing to say, like Chet Holmgren said, there's no one better than me. I believe that I'm going to be the best in a few months. Like that's okay to say because you're not pointing out anybody. You believe you're confident in yourself.
No names are mentioned. Yeah.
Like, but you called out the greatest player in our generation. And you're going to expect him to just not take that personally. I'm just saying, Indiana, and by the way, you're in Indiana. I'm sure Indiana fans are also like, this is stupid. Dude, why'd you say it?
Yeah, I haven't actually talked to any Pacers fans yet about this, but I mean, I imagine that's kind of like the sentiment. It's just like, why did you put a target on us that we did not need to have?
I just think it's funny. First off, it's like LeBron James. I mean, LeBron technically is not the greatest player in the world. I mean, some people say he is. I think he's in the top 3 now.
Right now, yeah.
But like, it's so funny. But anyways, we're going to leave it there. But that's kind of that was both Josh and I's reaction was just kind of like, are you, I didn't ask Josh, how did you feel about it? Like, I know I've just said that, but before we move on, how did you feel about it? Similar?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of thought the same thing, like just a goofy thing to say. Like nobody says that.
That's poking a bear, man.
No rookie running backs come up and say, I can't wait to face Aaron Donald. You know, no rookie quarterbacks say like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to face Myles Garrett, you know, and like, you just don't, you don't say stuff like
you don't say stupid stuff.
Like you stick to like no names. Like you can say that like I'm the best, and that can be open for interpretation of, oh, am I the best? Is he saying he's the best rookie, or is he saying like he's actually the best? And then even if it does translate to, yeah, I'm the best player in the world, like it's just like you can say, well, he's just very confident.
Exactly.
But, yeah, this guy's throwing around names, so that's gonna be interesting. Pacers Lakers matchup is now one that people want to watch. So. I think we've said enough about this kid, though.
Yes, we should move on.
Pick number 7, the Blazers. There's the Blazers.
The Blazers.
Shaedon Sharpe from Kentucky. Kentucky's always putting out top NBA products, it seems. Some of them pan out, some of them don't. But
it's a 50-50 shot with Calipari over there.
It is.
I think the Blazers are trying to do anything to keep Damian Lillard happy. I'm just be totally honest. I think they're trying to.
You do have to think like Damian, like, is that guy that screams, I'm never going to be a part of a super team. I'm never going to leave.
Yeah, he's very self-confident.
Like he's very loyal. He wants to stay with one team. Like, but I mean, the dude is pushing 30s now, and it's like, how bad does he want a ring, or how much is he going to stick to his word? You know what I mean? Like CJ McCollum's not there anymore. So
yeah, and maybe this will be it. And maybe this is what Sharpe does. I believe they also made a trade as well. Didn't they bring in somebody? Can't remember if they brought someone in.
Jeremy Grant?
Yes, Jeremy Grant was the guy they brought in.
They bring in Jeremy Grant.
Are they trying? I'm sorry, this is a really sucky try if you're trying. But I don't know. I think Sharpe's one of those guys I think that can make this team better for sure. But is it going to be enough in that really loaded West? Well, it's not really loaded anymore, it feels like. But very good Western Conference.
It still kind of feels loaded to me.
Yeah, still loaded. But we'll see there. And then the 8th pick, we had the Pelicans, who drafted the first G League Ignite player, which always fun to read that and be like, this is really where we're at in the world. Why don't you just let him get drafted from high school? I've said it for the last couple of years, but
really should. Like, if we're gonna do this,
really, like G League Ignite, like it's basically high school. So what was your thoughts on this pick? I didn't know a ton about Dyson Daniels. I knew about him, but obviously when they go to G League, it's just kind of like you don't watch it, so it's just kind of like they're there. But
yeah, that's kind of curious. Like on one end, like it's cool that you get the opportunity to play grown men. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, some guys that used to be really dominant at the college level that are hoping for like an opportunity for the NBA, and you could argue like that's better competition than like playing at the college basketball level, right? Like, but the downside is that it doesn't have like the national attention that like the college basketball scene has. And I don't really know what the coaching is like at the G League. I imagine it's still good, but for the Pelicans, at least, like, I mean, this is a team that we not too long ago were talking about like in 2 years, they could be really, really good. And now we're sitting here like Lonzo Ball's not there anymore. Zion Williamson has been forever injured, it feels like. And
this is the other thing though, is so he's from Australia originally. He's 6'7", 195. You know, he's one of those like long wing guys. He averaged in high school. No. Yeah. So, in Australia, he only averaged 8 points a game. He came to the G League Ignite, only averaged 12 points a game. I don't know. I look at his numbers. I look at some of these like quotes on him, and they say he's going to be a really good player. But are you willing to like? These are the G League. I always have issues with the G League guys. Like, is it worth it? Is it going to be worth that pick that you're? You know, when you have all these other college dudes that have been playing, you know, you have Johnny Davis still sitting there. You have Jeremy Shokin that's still sitting there. Dieng still sitting there. And the other thing too is I don't know, maybe this is a hot take. I would rather take a European player, like a 19, 20-year-old that's been playing against grown men for 4 years than taking a guy that's been in the G League, which again, they're playing against grown men, but they're maybe only a year out of high school. Whereas, you know, someone that's been playing 4 years. If that makes sense.
You're saying like the G League is guys that have been there for like
no. So what I'm saying is that like Dyson is only like a year or two out of high school, whereas a lot of these European kids, they've been playing against grown men for 4 to 5 years, depending on how old they are.
Yeah.
And I would rather take a European guy that you have more of a shot.
I mean,
with.
Luka was what, like the EuroLeague MVP when he was 16 years old?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. He was like 14 playing against 25-year-olds.
Yeah, crazy stuff.
But so Dyson Daniels gets drafted 8. Then 9 is a guy that actually a former Cedarville player, Desmond Parker, played for Cedarville during my time as a student assistant. He's actually a graduate assistant at Baylor. He actually worked a lot with one-on-one, just hanging out with Jeremy Sochin of Baylor. He was actually there at the draft, which is really cool. But he got drafted by the Spurs. What do you think about the Spurs do this? Is this the Pop pick? Do you think this is like a Popovich pick?
What's a Popovich pick? One that not too many people know about?
I think one that it's known, but like a guy that he knows he can develop even to be better. I think that's like a Popovich pick. Because I mean, this dude's a 6'9" forward. And he's already weighs 220. I don't know where they're going to play him. They could play him at the. I know he plays a little bit. He plays a little bit at the 3. He plays a little bit at the 4. He averaged 16 and sorry, that's the wrong one. I mean, where is he? Is he part Polish? I believe. Yeah. So he's originally from Poland. So kind of interesting there. So I don't know if I pronounced his last name right. I'm so sorry, people, if I pronounced his last name right, last name wrong. But yeah, I mean, they say he's a good defensive player. He's a good, he just kind of fits that Popovich mold, a guy that can play offensively, play defensively. So maybe they found a new Tim Duncan. I mean, he's shorter than Tim Duncan.
I think he's a good player. I saw him play the Tar Heels, and that really arguably the most exciting game of the whole college basketball tournament. Baylor was one of the better teams. Yeah, I think Sochin was a big part of that. So
now he only averaged. Yeah, I mean he averaged 9 and 6. So not. This is what's always weird for me, right? Like in the NFL, you look at the guys that get drafted at the top of the draft. They're always like stat fillers. Some of these dudes that get drafted at the top of the draft in the NBA average like 9 points a game, and I'm like,
well, that goes back to like how much they value the upside. Yeah, like just to bring up another example of that, like Nasir Little, another former Tar Heel pick. He was a one and done, one of the rare ones that come through Carolina, but he was also, I believe, like a 9 and 7 kind of power forward. And I believe he got drafted by Portland. I don't think he's really doing anything in the league anymore. So obviously that upside did not not live up to that upside, but
yeah. And so I think it's going to be interesting. Jeremy, I think it's a good pick. I think it's going to be a guy that can, I mean, he's played at Baylor. I mean, he's got a lot of good development. So obviously that, and then our last pick we're going to talk about is, well, I guess more in depth talk about is Johnny Davis, which I know, Josh, you are very high on. You like Johnny Davis. And I'm actually shocked that Johnny Davis slipped this far. I, in my head, had him going top 6 at the, like, I felt like that would the latest he would go would be top. I thought maybe he's going to be ahead of Jaden Ivey and Keegan Murray in some of my thoughts.
Kidding.
That's where I felt like I look at him and I just Keegan Murray, great scorer. Jaden Ivey, obviously a great guard. There's just Johnny Davis. There's just something about the game way he played it that I just thought that a lot of teams are going to miss this.
I would have thought maybe 6 or 7, but still, like, I think a massive steal. Like, this guy was the motor for Wisconsin. We saw it in the Big Ten tournament. We saw it in the big national tournament. Like, Wisconsin went as Johnny Davis went. This dude was a baller. Like, anytime like that, I mean, they missed him. He missed some time, I think.
Yeah, he did. He did miss some time.
Big Ten, and I mean, you can see like Wisconsin was not the same team.
No, I love Johnny Davis. I mean, the dude's kind of it's a Wisconsin guy. He's 6'5". You know, he's not a guy that's like, you know, it's just
not
cool
a one and done either, right?
No, he was a sophomore, so he had 2 years. He had played it but he came off of a not so. This is what's funny. If you look at his first year, he averaged 7 and 4, and then he averaged 19 and 8 his second year. I mean, that's a Wisconsin guy. That is a guy that goes from.
That's like the upside and the jump that you hope to see from like year 1 to year 2. That's why like some of these guys that are one and done that maybe didn't really explode, you'd like to see them maybe stay another year, just because it's like, okay, now we can feel more confident taking this, and why I imagine you were comfortable taking him like at 4 or 5.
Dude, I mean, the dude is a great ball player. I think he's going to be great. The Wizards got a great pick. The Wizards have now got themselves, I think, a good young dude to build around and a young guy to grow. So those are the top 10 picks that we said we would go over. But now we're going to talk about some picks that stuck out to us, maybe some picks that, you know, maybe we were shocked a little bit by. And then we're, of course, by the end of this, going to talk about the Cavs draft and kind of how we rate the Cavs draft as Ohioans and how we view that. So I'll let you go first, Josh. Is there anybody outside of that top 10 or maybe inside that top 10 that you just like really like, man, this is a great steal or a great pick by this team that's going to help them?
Yeah. I mean, ranking, I'll just start off with ranking some of these top 10 picks. Like, I got to say, like, Magic, I'm assuming the Magic did their homework with Paolo, but you got to love the value that you get with Jabari with the Rockets at number 3. So I'm going to go ahead and rank that pick like the best in terms of value. You got to love the Jaden Ivey pick at number 5. Well, I do at least. And then I'm going to go ahead and go with Johnny Davis at 10 as like my third favorite pick out of the top 10.
Oh, I like Jabari. I'm going to go first because I just think that's just a genius. I mean, it's an obvious pick. Jabari, mine would be Johnny Davis would be my second one. I think it's just a steal. I think it's a great pick. And then my third one is going to be Keegan Murray. I think that's a great pick by the Kings, a guy they can build around, another Big Ten guy. Did you notice a pattern with me, Josh? The Big Ten just kind of, you know, sticks out.
You really like that conference for some reason.
I do, for some reason. No, and then I'm going to pick that stuck out to me is actually I'm going to go 2 different ones. So I'm going to go one that I was confused about and one that I liked. The Spurs drafting Malachi Branham. Oh, wow. Shocker. A Ohio State guy. I don't understand why he went at 20. I mean, I thought maybe he slipped to 15, 16. I was hoping the Cavs would get him. Malachi Branham started off terrible this year. And then by the end of the year was freshman of the year in the Big Ten. Really great scorer, a guy that can average. I think he could easily average, 15, 16 points a game. His rookie year. I think the Spurs, they got a guy in Jeremy Shokan who is 6'9". They got a nice 6'5", 6'6" guard out of Branham. Those 2 picks I think are really good. So I love Malachi Branham. Great pick. I think they couldn't go any wrong there. A pick that was weird for me in the first round was the Cavs pick a little bit. Not that I didn't like it. He's going to be a great 3-and-D guy. He's going to be a guy that can score, but also play some good defense. But you did have Malachi Branham sitting there. And there's some other guys. Maybe they missed out because I think they really were wanting that Dieng from New Zealand. So I think that was a guy they really wanted. Jalen Williams from Santa Clara was also another guy I kept hearing. So there's some guys, Johnny Davis, that were there that I think they got the best guy available, I believe. But to me, I kind of wish they would have went a different way, but hey, you know what? We'll take it. So those are my 2 kind of like yay and nay picks for the first round. Any of the ones in the first round that's kind of like hey, that's a good pick. Or hey, that's why'd you do that?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say that the Mavericks getting Wendell Moore Jr.
That is
at
a good
26.
pick. That's a good
very,
pick.
very good value pick. Like they thought that dude would be like in the late teens, and they get to get him here at 26. Like, didn't correct me if I'm wrong, didn't the Mavericks kind of like get a really great value pick a few years ago with like Jalen Brunson?
Yeah, it was like a second round pick, but it was like a really good pickup to get Jalen Brunson.
A pick that had no business being available to them. Like I know we started the show by saying like basically all the good players are taken out of the top 10, but every now and then I think there are a couple like this that you got to look and be like, there's some potential here.
And I would say another one is Nikola Jovic, not Jokic.
Not to be confused with Nikola Jokic.
So supposedly, according to all experts in the draft, that he could be the best player in this draft class. And he already is just a freak. And so I didn't mention him. I kind of forgot about him. I shouldn't have forgot about him, but he's a guy from, I believe, is it Slovakia, Slovenia? Serbia.
I do not know.
Serbia.
Like,
it's Serbia, I believe.
List of picks that I'm looking at, they have his team as Mega Mozart.
No, he is from, Serbia. So yeah, Serbia is where he played. He's from. I think it's a great steal by the Heat. The Heat just got a lot better with him. I think he's going to be a great addition to those guys down there in South Miami. Now, Josh, in the second round, I know you might not have anything to add, but I'm going to add something. Why in God's green earth is EJ Liddell getting picked at 41? Now, the Pelicans, great steal. I think the Pelicans got a great pick right here. Don't get me wrong. But we both can believe, no matter if you're a High State fan or not, talent-wise, EJ Liddell should not be getting picked at 41.
Yeah, like I feel like the reason he dropped has to be because of size, right? Like, I don't know if you remember several years back, DeJuan Blair, a dominant center at Pitt, fell, I think, late second round just because it's like, what's a 6'6" center going to do in the NBA? And I think even like Draymond Green might have suffered from some of that too, like falling to the second round, maybe just because of a lack of size for his position. But EJ Liddell, I feel like that's got to be the same reason. And
well, they say that in his profile on NBA, on NBA.com, he's 6'7", 243. I mean, that's a big body dude. Like, that's a big dude. They say
he's not skinny, like in the sense that Chet Holmgren is. Like, it's not that kind of size. It's like, it's the height.
They say that he is 6'7" in shoes. So that means he's most likely
he's probably like
6'5". 6'5".
Yeah.
And his wingspan's only 6'11" and 6'11 3/4, which is kind of small for a dude that's 6'7". Normally you would have longer arms. Like, I have a short arm length. So I don't know. I mean, the dude averaged, listen to these stats, by the way. He averaged 19 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 blocks a game. Like, that's ridiculous numbers in the Big Ten, which is a hard conference to have those kind of numbers in.
Right.
So anyways, that was my shocker. That's just me. But let's finish up. Do you have anything to add though? I think do you have any surprises there in the second round?
I mean, really the only one was EJ, and you basically said everything that I was going to say, but I wanted to bring up some undrafted guys that I was not going to get picked. So that'll be kind of like, I guess, my thing right here. Starting off with Johnny Juzang from UCLA, unpicked, swiped up, I believe, by the Utah Jazz. Let me double check this correct here. I got a list of like some of the more notable guys that didn't go picked, but you kind of hate to see like some of these kids that leave for the draft early, like when they could have like gotten another year of development at college and then maybe in a year get picked actually and be able to, I don't know, make more money in the league and have a better shot. But yeah, Juzang was one of those guys that I assumed would be a first round pick. And then, it was the Jazz, but goes undrafted there. So, I mean, it's tough you can make it in the league undrafted, but it's really tough to do. And Johnny Juzang's probably the one that I'm most surprised by. Maybe not as big of a surprise, but just I want to shout out Brady Manick. He's staying in North Carolina, got signed by the Charlotte Hornets.
There you go.
And then maybe two other names that people will recognize are Sharif O'Neal.
Yeah.
Sharif O'Neal, son of Shaquille O'Neal.
To the Lakers.
LSU product. To the Lakers, yes. Scottie Pippen Jr., Vanderbilt. also
to the Lakers.
So
all I'll say is that
these are the two guys that are going to help LeBron James win a championship.
Listen, all I'll say is I guess Dad and Sharif did not on the same page. Dad wanted Sharif to stay another year at LSU, and he said no. I would listen to your dad, though. I mean, the dude did make a lot of money doing basketball.
Yeah. I think it's cool, like the story that Sharif has kind of had, because he had to miss the whole season with like an issue with his heart.
Yeah, he had heart surgery. But the other thing too is, what's crazy stat is that if he makes the roster, LeBron will have now played with Shaq and Shaq's son, which just is crazy. Which also shows you how long of a career Shaq had. But let's finish up the NBA draft by talking about the Cavaliers draft. Now, Josh, I want to hear your thoughts on the draft. They made some really good future picks. I think there's only maybe one pick that's going to help them, I think, in the future. Maybe two. But what did you think out of their 4 picks?
Yeah, I mean, I think they did about as good as you could hope at 14 with the kid from Kansas, whose name I'm definitely going to butcher, Ochai Agbaji. I think there's a couple guys that you would have rather had there, but as you had already mentioned, like a 3-and-D guy, which can fit into what the Cavs have right now. So maybe that's more so what they were looking for, a player that can fit rather than best player available, which I think I would tend to lean towards once you get to like mid first round like that. Like we just got to get like the best kid available. Like that's how I would draft. Maybe they were thinking more like role. They also have another Mobley that they drafted related to
the older brother,
rookie of the year, Evan Mobley, and not younger brother, older brother, apparently.
He's older brother. Yes. Isaiah's older.
Yeah. So family ties, you always love the stories there that come from that. I don't really know how good older brother Mobley is.
I mean, he was still a top. He's not as, I think, talented, like overall talent, but I still think he's a very solid player that could do some solid bench minutes for the team. I really do.
And then I believe the only other pick they had was Luke Travers.
They had one other, which was
Luke Travers.
Khalifa Diop from Gran Canaria, which is in Spain.
Okay, so there were 2 more then.
Yes,
that dude, and then Travers.
So I would say, my take is I love the Mobley pick. I think Evan had some play in that. I think just a little bit.
I think so. If you're taking one Mobley that panned out pretty good, made Kobe Altman think, why don't we try another one?
I mean, I'll just say this about Mobley, like, and I know Isaiah wants to be, called like, hey, I'm a really good player. I mean, he's 6'10", he's 240. The guy averaged this past year 14 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and a block a game. He was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. I mean, the guy's a good ball player. I think he's going to be a good kind of role player for them. If he makes the team, obviously 2nd round picks don't always make the team. But then I love the stash pick they got, which is what's his name? Oh, Diop from Spain, I think. Or is he from Spain, or is he from Cameroon originally? Hold on. Oh, he's from Senegal. My bad. But he played in Spain. So he's a guy that I believe a lot of people think he could be a kind of a stash player, plays in Europe for a year or two. He's averaged 14 and 10 this past World Cup with Senegal. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm really interested to see how that whole development goes. And the last one, his name was Travers, which the dude just looks like, if you look at his picture, he just looks like a dude that's just out there like fishing on a Sunday. It looks like just like a really cool dude to be around.
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, really cool. He didn't average a ton of points. But he's just a tough dude. I think that's going to be a good pickup. We'll see if he plays this year. He might play over next year. I don't know. So we'll see what happens. But I think the Cavs overall did a pretty decent job. Would you agree, Josh, that they did a pretty decent job?
About as good as they could. It would have been cool to see an EJ Liddell pick in there.
Oh, that would have been
for me, the non-Buckeye fan. But that's the only thing that I probably would change.
Yes, I agree. So there you go. That's the NBA draft for us. And Josh, what do you have next for us? What are we going to be talking about next?
Oh man, we just talked about some of the top college basketball prospects. Now we're talking about some of the
this is great.
Possibly top NFL draft picks in 4 years. But big commitment news starting off with Arch Manning. Are you shocked by Texas? He supposedly narrowed it down 3 visits: Texas, Alabama, Georgia. I personally thought Georgia had no shot with the way that they developed quarterbacks and handled them. Like their quarterbacks go elsewhere to be better and stay to suck. That's kind of like been Kirby Smart's track record. Eventually he'll get it down, I think. But I thought being from like SEC country, Alabama would have been the play.
No.
But no, Texas, even with Quinn Ewers there, perfect 100 ranking. He is not afraid of this kid. He goes to Texas.
I'm not shocked.
And the high-powered offense at Texas.
I kind of hope that Ewers gets beaten out just because I want Ewers to just feel it. I want him to realize that you can't just walk into a place because you're like, I'm rooting for Archie Manning. Like, sorry, Arch Manning. Is that what he's going by? Arch, whatever he's going by.
Arch officially, yeah.
So this is my thing. They're going to be in the SEC when he probably becomes the starter, right? Which he'll be in SEC country.
Yeah, that's coming in 2024. Yeah. So that'll be in his sophomore season.
Yeah. So for me, like I wasn't shocked he can go to Georgia. Like I think that's just like that. I would rather see him go to Tennessee at that rate. Alabama, I was like, Saban just seems to be going on the downhill. He's not recruiting at the highest level anymore. I hate to say that. I'm sorry. He is the GOAT. I'm not saying he's not, but it's a new age. And these players want to be in the best place for them. And I think he looks at Ewers as like, hey, I'm going to beat the alpha. I'm going to go in and beat the alpha male. And I think I would not be shocked if Ewers would lose his job to him. And if honestly, as Buckeye fans all around the world, we would all say, we will hope that Arch Manning comes in and just beats the snot out of him. Because for me, it's like, if you're going to go only for money, I don't believe that's Arch Manning. He's a very private person. He's nowhere really on social media. He's very private. He considers his life pretty much like I do college stuff. I do high school stuff. And for me, that's the kind of quarterback I want representing my school, because he's going to be a guy that's down to earth and truly believes in the Longhorn idea and that whole, like, what they stand for. Whereas I feel like Ewers is, yeah, he loves Texas, but does he love Texas? Because if he loved Texas, he would have went there before all the money came in anyways. So that's always my thing, is like some of these guys, like you say, well, I always wanted to play for Texas. I knew I was always going to be here. And it's like, you sure? So I think I love it. I'm not surprised at all. I think I looked at those two schools. I felt Texas a little bit more than I did Alabama. I think there's more of a chance for him to make a name for himself, maybe at Texas than Alabama, because Alabama, you're following all these footsteps. Whereas Texas, yeah, you have the Vince Youngs, you have these guys, Colt McCoys. But I feel like this is a place where it's not necessarily SEC right away, and he can kind of fill out his own name.
Yeah, the reason I was thinking Bama is just like, I know you mentioned like Saban's not recruiting at the level that he is, but at least at quarterback, they've had Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, Mac Jones, now Bryce Young. Like these are all guys that I assume are going to be starting the NFL, assuming that Bryce Young doesn't have any crazy injury, ends up being like first or second pick. Like they're doing very well, at least at the quarterback position. Yeah. And Bryce Young is also going to be gone after this year. So Arch had a chance to step in as a freshman there. But I think what the move to Texas also suggests is that, and this plays into Arch being like a pro and like being from like a family that is all pros. You know what I mean? Like his grandpa is an NFL Hall of Famer. His two uncles, Peyton and Eli, are Super Bowl champs, going to be Hall of Famers most likely. And it comes down to maybe they picked a system like Steve Sarkisian is that man that they trust to develop QBs, because he kind of has a track record of having like really good offenses, doing very well at developing quarterbacks. And also the other thing about Arch is I feel like he's one of maybe a few kids where NIL had zero factor in his recruitment.
Oh yeah, 100%.
He's basically already like living a millionaire lifestyle.
Oh yeah.
Like he doesn't need any money. Like somebody could have offered him a $10 million NIL deal, and I'm pretty sure he would have it would have not swayed his decision at all, because his name is going to bring him enough money.
Yeah. And I also think though, if you're Tennessee and Ole Miss, like I know you don't really have the greatest right now in the greatest spot, but I'm like, this is your opportunity, like to get a guy, one of the, a nephew of one of your favorite, your famous quarterbacks. I don't know. That's just me. I think it'd been cool to see him there. But yeah, that's Arch Manning, which I think is just, it's a great story. And I think it's going to be really cool to see what Arch Manning does in the future.
It is. And speaking of family, like history at other schools, I don't know if we've touched on this one yet, but CJ Carr, a 4-star QB from Michigan, whose grandfather is Lloyd Carr, decided to go to Notre Dame.
I hate Notre Dame, but I just love this just because Michigan got screwed. I love it.
They did. Like,
dude, what does that but Josh, what does that tell you though about Harbaugh right now? Like, you have in your lap, you have the grandson of probably one of the greatest Michigan coaches.
Michigan fans love Lloyd Carr.
And it's like, how do you let this slip out of your fingers? How? You had more of a chance to land Colin Kaepernick as your quarterback than you did Carr. I'm sorry, that is my non-political joke for the day. So that's my question for you is, what is happening in Michigan? I
don't know, man, because they've been in the hunt for 2 QBs, like most recently, one in the 2024 class, which was CJ Carr, and 2023 class, Dante Moore, who I believe is like the 4th QB, but still like a 5-star, I believe he is. And he is actually currently crystal balled to go to Oregon. So that doesn't mean he's committed. He hasn't announced anything, but the recruiting experts and insiders are predicting like unanimously that he's going to announce his commitment to Oregon soon. So it's like this kid, Martin Luther King Jr. High School in Detroit, like these are 2 kids that on paper should have been Michigan Wolverines. Like
easily.
One who's in Detroit, like you got to assume like almost all elite Detroit prospects should be going to Michigan. You got to assume that the grandson of one of the greatest coaches in school history is going to go to your school. And it doesn't look like they're going to get either of them at the moment.
And it just shows that I think Harbaugh is sometimes it seems like he's so caught up in like certain things. Like he's been caught up on this Ohio State victory for the last 7 months. And it's like, dude, like you're so caught up on this that you're letting dudes slip out of your fingertips to get you to stay on top. Because I'll tell you this, Ohio State is not sitting back and saying, hey, yep, we'll hand it over to you. No, that's in Columbus right now. They're ticked off. They're angry. They're going to go in and they're going to, I would not be shocked if it's going to be like another 2018 or whatever, where we put 70 points up. I would not be shocked if Ryan Day says, you know what, there is no going to let off the gas. We're going to put the shoe on the neck and we're going to keep cruising. And so I, as an Ohio State fan, I think it's funny. As someone that also has compassion, there's not much over there for Michigan fans, but there is for this one. Like as a Michigan fan, like this sucks for you. Like,
you have to be able to parlay your current success into future success. Like this is also what kind of makes me think that this Michigan Big Ten championship, it's just going to be a one-time deal. Like they haven't done anything to continue to spring the program further along. Like Harbaugh tried to leave already because he knew that this was
and that's my other thing. Like, why are you giving?
He's not getting any Big Ten recruits after this. Like, they're just kind of like staying the same.
What recruit wants to see? Oh, he was about to go to a head coaching job in the NFL. Like, what recruit's going to be like? Hey, I want to stay with that. Yeah. Ryan Day. What has Ryan Day said every time someone brings up this? He tells them every time, I'm staying at Ohio State. Yeah. Every single time. And I just think it's fascinating.
So, it looks at least right now at the moment to me that Michigan is going to go back to being at least the second best team in the Big Ten East, and perhaps lower if they don't at least maintain the success that they've had at least the last few years. But you brought up Ohio State's not sitting back or doing anything, and I think the recruiting news that they got this week kind of is an indicator of that. Amazing. So I will allow you, my friend, to have the floor here and get your 5 minutes of loading out of the way so that we don't have to deal with this anymore. So the floor is yours.
All I'm going to say is that I have been very quiet on what Ohio State's been doing. I haven't said much. I've just been sitting there.
You haven't said much. If you follow our Instagram, guys, you know that's a straight up lie.
I've got
so many notifications, some of tags into Ohio State commits this week. I don't buy that.
Well, as you know, they got Raiola, who's currently, by the way, number 1 overall prospect in 2024. So they got to come in with him. I think that was 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 weeks ago?
It was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago. So this week, the greatest I think, recruiter right now on the planet recruits for Ohio State and Brian Hartline. And they got not one, not two, but 3 wide receivers and 2 5-stars. We'll start off with a 4-star that was. We'll start with a 4-star that just committed. I believe it was a Wednesday. No, Wednesday, maybe. Was it Wednesday? Wednesday or Thursday? One of the 2 days. His name is Noah Rogers. He is from Florida, I believe. 4-star, a great pick, and a great pickup, I should say, for the Ohio State Buckeyes. And the greatest part about it is that a Michigan coach texted him the next day, and all he responded was, "Go Bucks." And that's what made me so sealed on this kid. Like, this is just true fashion. So as of right now, these guys are committed. I just want everyone to know there. If you don't know college football, it does not mean that they're going to be playing there necessarily, but it's usually like a 80% chance that they're going to be playing there for their season. But that was after we saw Carnell Tate, who is a 5-star stud, and then Brandon Inniss, who might even be better than Carnell Tate, a 5-star on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, we saw Noah Rogers. So in 3 days, we saw 2 5-stars and a 4-star wide receiver, which, by the way, does not even include the 4 and 5 stars that are already on the roster. This team is going to be loaded in a few years. They're already loaded, but just to see the new quarterbacks coming in, the new running backs, the new wide receivers. Hey, as I ever said, Josh, it's a great day to be a Ohio State fan.
I will say, as you mentioned just now, like the commitment means it's like 80%, but also like this year's coming class has 4 4-star wide receivers coming in.
Yes.
Julian Fleming is a 5-star that has seen next to no action so far.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't mean that all these kids are going to do great things for the Buckeyes, but at least having this many commitments and this many guys, at least on the roster, coming in as freshmen, it only increases your chances, right? Like, some of them are going to pan out and be very, very, very good.
Dude,
not all of them are going to, but you got like all these options now.
But even for you,
going to do very well.
I know you're not a Ohio State fan, but even someone that's, you've been around Ohio State your whole life, pretty much. You've always been around Ohio State football in some ways. What do you think of Brian Hartline, what he's doing? Have you seen a coach the way he is recruiting wide receiver? Have you ever seen a coach, whether before NIL, after NIL, before really transfers really picked up? Have we ever seen a coach that not only recruits them, but keeps them there for at least 3 years? Have you seen a coach like that?
Whoever the heck the QB coach was at USC that got Carson Palmer and Matt Leinart and Mark Sanchez and Matt Barkley, like that, just during that USC glory dynasty era there, when they just like were getting all the great QBs, like I would say whoever that guy was, no idea at the moment. It might have actually been Sark, because he was a USC assistant. Now that I say that, it actually might have been Sark, but yeah, like there's really not any other coach that's doing this. I mean, I'm pretty sure the 247 recruiting site has Brian Hartline as the number 1.
Oh yeah, he's been the number recruiter for the last couple of years.
How can you argue against this? Like, and let's point out, you mentioned these kids are like, I'm pretty sure they're all from Florida. Like IMG Academy, where Carnell Tate's from, Florida. Although I know he grew up in Chicago, but transferred there. Like,
Inniss is also from Florida.
Inniss, American Heritage, one of the top developmental programs in the country. Rogers, another Florida kid, like they're doing this on the national level too. Like, let's go back to Michigan. Like, they can't even get their top kids in state. Ohio State's doing that, and they're stealing prospects that should be going to Florida State, Florida Gators, Miami Hurricanes, and being a national powerhouse in recruiting. Like, this is what it takes to be a national champion. You can't just do good in your state. You also have to take other states' best kids as well.
What do you, and you obviously, my take on this, but do you feel like this is kind of like a Ryan Day, Brian Hartline really like kind of being pissed off about the whole Michigan loss? Like, I really feel like they've ramped this up. I haven't seen them recruit this hard in a while, but the way they've been going out and just getting players, the way their practices, you look at some of the videos of their practices, like, to me, this looks like this is just a group of coaches that are like, we got embarrassed and we're going to go out and prove that we can still recruit and that our team's going to be ready.
I mean, what have they been doing since the loss? They've blasted Utah in the Rose Bowl to show that they definitely should have been in a better game than that. They went out and got a new defensive coordinator. They've gone out and addressed a couple needs from the transfer portal already. They're recruiting lights out. And I mean, they're doing everything that you would hope as an Ohio State fan to see them do after a year where it appeared that they fell off the rails a little bit.
And also, you think about it, they're not relying on the transfer portal. And that's what I love about Ohio State. They go out and they get one or two guys, and then they say, you know what, this is our team. These are our guys. They're not going to go out.
Very largely doing, all of that in-house. And at least to my knowledge right now, they didn't have to do any, like, I'm sure, like, Ennis and Tate and Rogers will get some NIL money when they arrive.
But they don't do a lot, though.
They didn't need to do like what A&M did to get 8 5-stars in their one class.
Josh, remember, they didn't do anything. He didn't know about it. All right. There was nothing wrong. They did not pay anybody. Remember.
Nothing happened there. Yeah. But But what I'm saying also is that Ohio State didn't have to do anything either to get these kids.
But literally didn't have to do much. Like, honestly. But
I think the resume right there that Hartline had of like 3 first-round receivers. I mean, I was talking about parlaying success into further success, like what Michigan has failed to do. Hartline just got to say like 3 first-rounders in this NFL draft, and what does he go and do? He goes and gets 3 of the top high school prospects, all from the state of Florida.
What does that say for you as a Florida Gator fan that just sees 3 top-tier dudes just leave, just out of nowhere, just leave?
Like, I know, like, the Gators haven't been, like, the hot spot lately for receivers. It's been a while. And I know we got, like, I think right now in the 2023 class, we have 2 of, like, the top 15 committed, which is cool. Props to Billy Napier for making that happen. But it does kind of suck, man, like, seeing prospects that should be Gators or, I mean, even should be Hurricanes.
I mean, it started with, I really think, when Urban left to go to Ohio State, where he basically took his whole Florida recruiting thing and just brought it up north. Like, I really feel like that's what happened.
They were getting all the in-state kids when he was there. And
I remember
that's been Dan Mullen's, like, biggest failure, like, and a big reason why he got fired is he could never keep the top kids in state.
I just loved when I would talk with you when we did the radio show, and you get so ticked when you'd see like another kid from Florida go to Ohio State. And you're like, how are they doing this? Like, Urban's just going down there and plucking kids.
You got it. I'm sure Texas Longhorns fans feel the same way, seeing kids like Garrett Wilson from Lake Travis, one of their top high schools out there, take off for Ohio State as well.
Or even Chris Olave down by USC, and they didn't even notice him.
Well, he was a 3-star, so I don't think California football out there.
I forgot, 3-star out there. 3-star.
That was more of like a mid recruit or diamond in the rough, if you will. But these kids, like, from IMG, American Heritage, like, these are coveted prospects, and everybody knows them.
It's what happens. That's college football. And speaking of college football, we're in talks right now. We're trying to figure it out, but we're going to be doing some previews of college football season. We might have some guests, maybe even my pops. Yeah, Dad, you don't even know about it yet. But we might have Johnny Gaunt on from the Fifth and Goal podcast. There's a lot of different things that we might be doing here in the next few weeks leading up to college football. So be staying tuned for that. Josh and I, it's like one of our favorite things to talk about. We love college football, which is funny because we started hosting the show after college football season was pretty much done. So it's going to be fun this year to actually talk college football and then yell at each other about how wrong we are. But that's besides the point. But we are going to finish up this show talking about the NHL Stanley Cup Finals, which, by the way, when this show comes out, it might be decided. So
Game 6 is tonight at the time of recording.
Yes.
In 3 hours and 40 minutes.
So what that means is whatever we say here, we are not liable to the truth or not. Okay. We're not liable.
If we're wrong, we changed our mind before a puck dropped. So.
Exactly. But Josh, I'm going to throw it to you right now. Does the Stanley Cup Finals end tonight?
Man, I'll tell you what, Tampa Bay has been a different team than the last time we talked about them.
Like, I know. I feel like an idiot. I feel like such an idiot right now.
What was it? 6-2 in game 2. We were just like,
gosh.
What the heck? And
Jared even said, Jared said Colorado Avalanche. That's his team. Going to be like a sweep possibly.
And I mean, from the get-go, I've been rooting for Tampa Bay, but I kind of had a feeling that Colorado, just with how well they play offense, how fast they are, like, and how difficult it is to get a three-peat in, that, I mean, Tampa Bay was going to have their hands full. And you would have definitely thought after that second game, like, oh my gosh, like Tampa Bay, they're done for. But they get out of Colorado, return to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay ends up getting a victory. go back to Colorado, or no, they're in Tampa for 2 games. Colorado steals one on the road. It's 3-1. Then they go back to Colorado, and you think they're going to finish the deal, and Tampa Bay gets them in overtime, or not in overtime, but 3-2, very close game. And now they are back at Tampa Bay, and I'm feeling a 7-game series, Ben. I'm not going to lie. Like, Colorado's offense has not looked like it has that second game, and I couldn't tell you the reason. Like, Tampa Bay has definitely made adjustments defensively, and I'm going to go ahead and say that on their home court, home rink, home ice, if you will, that Tampa Bay is going to extend this to 7 games.
I think it could end tonight. I'm going with it's ending tonight as we're recording this. So again, if it does go 7, know that I've changed my mind. And I think Josh would say the same thing. So I believe, though, I think Colorado it's at Tampa Bay, right?
They're going to be at Tampa Bay tonight for games.
So I think, Colorado says, you know what? Okay, you took one on our home ice. There's nothing better than winning on an opponent's home court, home ice. The Cavs did that in Golden State. So I just have this feeling. I think, yes, they've been struggling, but hey, Colorado, bring it home. So I'm going to say Colorado wins this game tonight. Technically, for me, it's like in the middle of the night. But yeah, that's what I got. That's what I got, Josh.
It's kind of interesting. Like,
it is interesting.
The last 2 games have been 3-2 scores. Colorado winning overtime 3-2, and then Tampa Bay holding on to win 3-2 in Game 5. Like, after that 7-0, I said 6-2. 6-2 was actually Tampa Bay's win when they got to Tampa Bay for Game 3. But a 7-0 slashing, like, I wonder what kind of a game it could be tonight, because Tampa Bay's offense hasn't been like scoring 6 goals. Like, they got 7 goals in the game earlier this Stanley Cup, but it seems like most of their games they do best when Vasilevsky's like playing out of his mind. And before the Stanley Cup, I read off to you all the stats of how well he's been doing in elimination games. Like, and I mean, tonight we're in an elimination game. Last game we were in an elimination game, and I feel like this is going to be another grinder, like potentially another 3-2. And Tampa Bay seems to be at their best when they can keep the score close like that.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game. It's going to be an interesting thing. We'll be talking about it next week for sure. We'll be giving the highlights, the recap of the Stanley Cup Finals. We'll also be talking about some different baseball news, any new football news. So like the Deshaun Watson thing going on, any college football, anything like that. We're going to be giving you updates. Again, we're in the part of the year where there's not a ton of sports going on. Which means that's what's going to be happening in the future when we talk about college football. We'll be having a whole bunch of time talking about that. So again, thank you so much for listening. If you do want to hear more of what we're doing, then head on over to our Instagram at baseline.podcast, where you can listen to this week alone. I'm going to be uploading some clips of different things that we've said, rants and funny things and things like that. But also we like to share news that's on there. Go ahead, make sure you share it with your friends and family. If you guys want to check out more of the behind the scenes stuff, kind of the stuff that we do, things we think about, things we talk about as well. And then also, if you've watched this on YouTube and you love it, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, notification bell, let you see all of our other episodes. And if you've been listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you favorite it. As we know, Josh is much more of a Spotify guy, but that's okay if you're an Apple Podcast guy. I'm with you. I know. But then again, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Really do appreciate all of you that listen. That's great when I hear comments or I get a text here and there. It's really cool. So again, keep it up. We love hearing your thoughts. Tell us how bad we are. That's okay too. But remember, have a good week, and we'll see you next week. Till then, we'll see you.